My best friend, Jack, and I always enjoyed exploring abandoned places. We had explored almost every forgotten corner of our small town. As we grew older, we started searching for new locations, hoping to find something that would give us the thrill we craved. That's when we discovered the house on Hollow Lane. It was a large, dilapidated Victorian mansion, surrounded by overgrown bushes and trees, hidden from the main road. The local legend said that the house was cursed, and anyone who dared to enter would suffer terrible consequences. It was also rumored that strange noises and ghostly apparitions were often seen within its walls. Naturally, we couldn't resist the opportunity to explore such a place. We decided to visit the house on a Friday night, armed with flashlights, cameras, and the excitement of the unknown. As we approached the house, an eerie feeling washed over us. The air felt heavy, and the moon cast ominous shadows on the ground. We hesitated for a moment, but our curiosity got the better of us, and we proceeded inside. The house was in a state of disarray, with broken furniture and debris scattered throughout the rooms. The walls were covered in mold and peeling wallpaper, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. We carefully made our way through the house, documenting our findings and trying not to disturb the crumbling structure. As we ventured deeper into the house, we began to hear strange noises, soft whispers, distant footsteps, and unexplained creaking. We tried to brush them off as our overactive imaginations, but the sense of unease only grew stronger. It felt as though the house itself was alive, watching and waiting. Eventually, we found ourselves in a small room that appeared to have been a nursery. An old crib stood in the corner, covered in a layer of dust. The wallpaper was faded and torn, revealing the outlines of long-forgotten toys and characters. It was here that we experienced our first truly chilling encounter. As we stood in the room, the temperature suddenly dropped and the air grew icy cold. We could see our breaths and our flashlights flickered erratically. Then, without warning, we heard the sound of a baby crying. It was faint at first, but it grew louder and more desperate with each passing second. We searched the room frantically, trying to locate the source of the sound, but it seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Terrified, we fled the room and continued to explore the house, hoping to find an explanation for the chilling cries. As we moved through the dark corridors, the crying followed us, echoing throughout the house. It was then that we began to see the ghostly apparitions. Shadowy figures darted through the darkness, disappearing as quickly as they appeared. We caught glimpses of a woman in a tattered dress, her eyes filled with sadness and despair. A man in a suit, his face twisted with rage and hatred, stalked the hallways, his footsteps heavy and purposeful. We felt a growing sense of dread and panic, realizing that we were not alone in the house. Despite our fear, we pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind the haunting. In the basement, we discovered a hidden room sealed behind a false wall. Inside, we found a collection of old, worn journals, each one filled with the thoughts and experiences of the house's former occupants. As we read through the journals, we began to piece together a horrifying tale of love, betrayal, and murder. It seemed that the house had once been home to a family torn apart by jealousy and madness. The father, consumed by suspicion and paranoia, had killed his wife and infant child in a fit of rage, believing them to be plotting against him. In his grief and despair, he took his own life, leaving the house forever tainted by the darkness of their tragic end. The spirits of the tormented family were trapped within the house, unable to find peace or move on to the afterlife. The father, filled with regret and remorse, was cursed to wander the halls, forever searching for redemption. The mother, her heart broken by the loss of her child, cried out in eternal sorrow. And the baby, robbed of its life before it ever even began, cried out for the comfort and love it would never know. As we read their story, we felt a profound sadness for the souls trapped within the house. We knew that we had to help them find peace, but we were unsure how to do so. It was then that we discovered a small wooden box hidden among the journals. Inside the box was a collection of letters, photographs, and trinkets, each one a precious memory of the family's happier days. We realized that these items held the key to their salvation, a connection to the love and happiness that had once filled the house. With trembling hands, we gathered the items and began to arrange them throughout the house, placing them in the rooms where they would have the most meaning. As we did so, the atmosphere began to change. The darkness lifted, and the air felt lighter, less oppressive. The crying faded away, replaced by a sense of calm and tranquility. Finally, we returned to the nursery and placed the last of the items, a small hand-knit blanket, in the crib. As we stepped back, the room was filled with a warm, golden light. The ghostly figures of the mother and child appeared before us, their faces no longer filled with sadness and despair, but with love and gratitude. In that moment, we knew that we had succeeded in freeing the spirits from their eternal torment. The house on Hollow Lane was no longer a place of darkness and death, but a symbol of hope and redemption. As we left the house, we felt a newfound respect for the power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. But the experience also left us with a lingering fear of the unknown, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurks just beneath the surface of our world. And though we would continue to explore abandoned places, we would never forget the night we spent in the house on Hollow Lane.
Just as the title states, I clean abandoned houses for a living. I'm quite proud of myself, as I've worked hard starting my own business at just 40 years old and building it to what it is now. I specifically targeted these types of cleaning jobs, as you can charge much more than your average 1 to 3 times per week house cleaning jobs of inhabited homes. Plus, I rarely ever have to see anyone other than my team while on the job. Over the years, I have really been in some insane situations with these houses. Everything from encountering wild animals to once a deranged squatter taking up residence in the homes I clean. There is one house that stands out from the rest, however, one that haunts my dreams to this day. I got the job offer through a real estate agent I made my friend over the years in this business. It's a small home, not much clutter left, Amelia, my real estate friend, said over the phone. Shouldn't need more than 1 or 2 of you to complete the clean, she continued in her enthusiastic voice. I rolled my eyes. I hated when she used her customer service voice on me. Yeah, what's the real deal with this house? I answered in my usual half-annoyed tone. Amelia responded more normal this time. Honestly, Lori, this house gives me the creeps. The granddaughter inherited it a couple of years ago, but has just recently decided to sell. The grandmother apparently died in the house. I rolled my eyes again. Death in the houses I cleaned was nothing new to me, and Amelia was well aware of this. Amelia continued, I cut my pre-visit to the house short last week. Didn't even make it upstairs where the grandmother apparently passed. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming in this one. That got my attention. Amelia had been in real estate longer than I had been in the cleaning business, and she took her get-to-know-before-showing visits very seriously. Anyway, I recommended your cleaning services to the granddaughter, and she agreed right away. Do you accept? She finished. Yes, I accept the job. How soon can we get in to clean? I answered, feeling somewhat excited. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. As I mentioned, the granddaughter removed most of the clutter from the house, but it still needs a good TLC cleaning. The key will be left under the welcome mat, Amelia said, back in her customer service voice. I rolled my eyes yet again as I ended the call. Finally, an interesting clean, I thought, as I then dialed Morgan. The next day, my most trusted cleaner and best friend, Morgan, and myself drove up the horribly overgrown driveway and saw the well-aged small house come into view. Surely they will need to hire an outside maintenance and renovation crew, I thought as I climbed out of my cleaning van. Morgan whistled as we stepped on the small, creaking porch. "You sure just you and I can handle this, Lori?" Morgan asked as I fetched the house key from the weathered porch mat. "If the outside is anything like the inside, we need the whole damn team," Morgan stated as she stood behind me. "Amelia is over the top, but would never underestimate a cleaning job," I answered as I slid the house key into the old lock and turned until I heard the lock give way. I then pushed the door open as it made the usual ominous creak. We were both silent as we stepped into what I assumed was the small living room. The musty smell of a far too long closed-up house filled my nose as my eyes scanned the darkened room. Just as Amelia said, not much was left in the room. A couch took up most of the room on the right. A small wooden coffee table sat directly in front of it, coated in a thick layer of dust. I noticed a few photographs still clung to the walls. "Let's get the supplies from the back of the van and get started," I said over my shoulder to Morgan. "I have dinner plans and want this done long before." A bit later, I was scrubbing the dirty windows of the living room while Morgan opted to start upstairs. "Lori!" I heard Morgan call from up the stairs located just behind me. "What?" I called back. It was silent for several minutes as I waited for a response. I felt my aggravation growing as Morgan did not respond. I threw my rag on the floor and wiped my sweating brow as I turned and headed towards the stairs. Each step groaned beneath my feet as I climbed to the upper floor. "You'd better have a damn good reason for interrupting me and not answering," I yelled as I reached the final step. Goosebumps covered my skin when I stepped on the old wooden floor of the upper level. "Weird," I mumbled to myself as I looked around. The upper level was a small hallway. 2 rooms were located on each side as I peered down the dark corridor. "Morgan?" I called in a softer voice this time. No answer. I slowly headed down the hallway, wishing I had thought to bring my flashlight. I always hated working with no electricity, but it came with the job. I could see the light of day from the open door on the left side of the hall. The other door on the right was closed. As I looked into the open door on the left of the hall, I saw Morgan standing still, looking at the bed located on the far side of the room. "It moved," she said, in almost a whisper. "Huh?" I answered as I walked in and stood beside her. "The bed. It moved on its own while I was cleaning the floor," she said, still staring down at the bed. I then noticed the bed was crooked now. The bottom was several inches away from the wall, where the top was still flush with the corner of wall. "Do you see it?" she then said, even softer now. I almost couldn't hear her. Instead of questioning her, I looked down towards the bed that her eyes were glued to. I instantly saw what she was talking about. There was an imprint on the bed the shape of a body, as if someone was laying on the bed that very moment. The chills were really covering my body now, and I felt myself actually shivering. It felt like someone was staring up at us directly from the bed. I slowly reached for Morgan's arm and gently pulled her towards me. "Let's go back downstairs. We will finish the bottom floor together," I said, matching her whispering tone. Morgan did not respond, but obeyed my request. The feeling of eyes on us did not leave as we headed down the small hallway to the top of the stairs. I had to fight the urge to run down the flimsy steps. Once we were safely down in the living room, the air somehow felt easier to breathe, if that makes any sense. "What the hell was that?" Morgan demanded, finally sounding more like herself. I ignored that question. "Look, you know I hate skimming on jobs, but let's get this level done and get the hell out of here." I grabbed my cleaning supplies and headed to the next room, which appeared to be a small office. I was so relieved we would be out of there soon. This room had stained and worn-down carpet covering the wooden floor. I turned on our rechargeable vacuum and the loud buzzing sound almost deafened me, but I was glad for it. Working in eerie silence was not normal for us as we usually chatted and listened to music, but I was too rushed to fool with conversation or a playlist right now. "What the actual hell?" I heard Morgan yell out over the sound of the vacuum. I jerked my head up to see Morgan staring up at the ceiling, looking terrified again. Just as I cut the vacuum off, I heard what she had to be referring to as the buzzing sound died down. I can only explain it as the choking or coughing, gurgling sound of an elderly person. It was only for a split second I heard it, but that was enough. "Screw this!" I yelled, as I grabbed up as many of our supplies as I could. Morgan joined me in grabbing up the rest. We dashed out of the office, through the kitchen and living room, and out the front door. I was pretty much sprinting to the van while trying not to trip on the mess of the yard. Just as I got to the van, I heard Morgan shout, "Wait!" I turned to see her a few feet behind me. "I left my supplies upstairs. We also didn't finish cleaning up there. We didn't even clean the bathroom, which must be up there." "I'm not charging the freaking client. We can buy new whatever supplies are left. Get your ass in the van." I didn't wait for a response as I jumped into the driver's seat. Morgan hurried and threw the supplies in her arms in the back and slammed the door. I took one final look at the house as she slid into the passenger seat. I couldn't be sure, but it almost looked like someone was peering out of one of the two upper windows. I started the van. Hearing it roar to life was pure heaven in that moment. I floored it out of the driveway and back into town. I later called Amelia to explain the job was not complete and I would not be charging. The granddaughter would have to find someone else to clean that nightmare. This has been a couple of months ago, and I was not kidding when I said this horrid house still haunts my dreams to this day. It was only last night I dreamt I was in a bed, staring up at an old, cracked, and familiar ceiling. I felt weak and frail as the weight of someone crawling on top of me took the air from my lungs. I felt cold hands around my throat squeezing tighter and tighter, that awful, gurgling, choking sound coming from my mouth being the last thing I heard as I woke up in a cold sweat. The marks are still visible on my throat today.
I grew up in a small, old town in Maine that most people wouldn't recognize by name. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other, where the streets are quiet after dark, and where the past lingers like a heavy fog that never quite clears. I moved away years ago, but I still find myself thinking about that town, especially at night when sleep evades me. There's something about the darkness that brings back the memories, the kind you try to forget but can never really shake. When I was a kid, the town had this strange, almost otherworldly atmosphere. It was hard to put into words, but there was a feeling, a deep unease that we all sensed but never talked about. The adults called it superstition, the kind of thing that happens in every small town. But we kids knew better. We heard the stories, the whispers in the schoolyard, the tales passed down from older siblings. It was always about children going missing, about kids who would wander off and never come back. It started with the little things. Toys left on porches would disappear, bikes abandoned on the sidewalk would be gone the next morning, even when the chains were still locked. Parents would write it off as pranks or the work of some petty thief. But the kids knew better. We always did. The first time I really understood the fear was when a boy from my class, Jamie, vanished. We were in the 3rd grade, and Jamie was the kind of kid everyone liked, always laughing, always with a joke on his lips. He was the first to dare anyone to go into the sewers, a place we all avoided. He said he had heard voices down there, that something was calling to him. None of us believed him. Not really, but we didn't want to test it either. One day, Jamie didn't show up for school. It wasn't unusual at first. Kids get sick or go on trips without much notice. But when a week passed and Jamie still wasn't back,
The adults started to worry. They searched the town, the woods, even drained part of the river. Nothing. No one talked about the sewers, though. Not even when someone found his sneaker by the storm drain near the old paper mill, the one with the faded sign and the rusted gates. The cops said it probably washed down from somewhere, that it didn't mean anything, but we knew. After Jamie, there were more. A girl from the next street over, twins who lived near the library, a little boy from the outskirts who just started kindergarten. One by one, they vanished, and the town grew quieter, like the life had been sucked out of it. The laughter of children faded, replaced by the whispers of the adults, who were now too scared to let us out of their sight. But it didn't matter. When someone or something wanted you, it would find you. I remember one night, lying in bed, listening to the rain patter against my window. I was half asleep when I heard it, a voice, soft and melodic, like a lullaby. It was coming from outside, from the direction of the street. I crept to the window and peeked through the curtains. There was nothing there, just the empty street, the old street lamp flickering like it always did. But the voice didn't stop. It called my name, sweet and inviting, like it was promising something wonderful. I wanted to go to it, to step out into the rain and follow that voice wherever it led, but I didn't. I don't know why, but something in me knew better. I climbed back into bed and pulled the covers over my head, trying to block out the sound. Eventually, I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it was morning. Years passed, and the disappearances slowed, then stopped altogether. But the town was never the same. Some families moved away, unable to bear the weight of the losses. Others stayed, trying to forget, to pretend like nothing had happened. But those of us who grew up there, who lived through it, we never forgot. We never could. Now, as an adult, I avoid small towns. I stay away from old storm drains and abandoned buildings, and I never, ever listen to strange voices in the night. But every now and then, when I'm lying in bed, just on the edge of sleep, I hear that lullaby again. And I remember. I remember the missing children, the darkened streets, and the town that kept its secrets close, buried deep beneath the surface, waiting for the day when it might need to feed again. Sometimes I wonder if anyone else remembers, if the story still lingers in the minds of those who left. But I don't ask, because some things are better left forgotten. Or at least that's what I tell myself when the night comes creeping in. And then there's the balloons, red ones. I used to see them sometimes, floating by the riverbank or caught in the branches of a tree. I always thought they were just left over from some birthday party, but now looking back, I'm not so sure. I still see them in my dreams, bright and crimson, drifting silently down empty streets. It's strange how something so innocent can fill you with such dread. About a week ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in shaky, almost childlike handwriting. Inside, there was a single photograph, grainy, black and white, like it was taken decades ago. It was a picture of a group of kids standing in front of the old library in my hometown, smiling at the camera. But there was something wrong. In the background, just behind the children, there was a figure, a tall, thin man in a suit, his face obscured by shadow, and at his feet, a red balloon. My heart pounded as I stared at the photo, a cold sweat breaking out on my skin. I hadn't thought about that place in years, and now it was coming back to haunt me. The letter didn't include a note or an explanation, just that single haunting image. I wanted to throw it away, to pretend I never saw it, but something stopped me. Instead, I placed it in a drawer and tried to forget about it. But I couldn't. 2 nights ago, I heard the voice again. The same soft, melodic lullaby drifting through the air like it had years ago. This time, though, it wasn't outside my window. It was in my house, just outside my bedroom door. I froze, too terrified to move, as the voice called my name over and over, growing louder with each repetition. When I finally mustered the courage to open the door, there was nothing there. Just the dark, empty hallway. But on the floor, right outside my bedroom, was a red balloon, bobbing slightly, as if someone had just let it go. I knew then that it wasn't over, that whatever haunted that town hadn't forgotten me. It had found me again, and this time, it wouldn't let go. Last night, I made a decision. I'm going back to that town, back to where it all started. I don't know what I'll find, but I can't keep running. Whatever this thing is, it's coming for me, and if I'm going to stop it, I need to confront it. I booked a ticket for the first flight out tomorrow morning. I haven't told anyone where I'm going. I'm not sure I'll come back. But there's one thing I know for certain. I'm not the only one it's after. And if I don't do something, if I don't end this, it will keep hunting, keep feeding, until there's nothing left. So, if you're reading this, be careful. Pay attention to the signs, the missing children, the voices, and the balloons. And if you ever hear a lullaby in the night, don't listen. Whatever you do, don't follow it, because once it finds you, it never lets go.